Amp-in-a-Box pedals come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and functionalities. I've got 6 of them here today, and I've broken them up into 3 different categories, which will hopefully help you figure out what type of amp-in-a-box pedal might be most useful for whatever scenario you think you might use it in. The 3 categories I have created are pure pedals, pedal platforms, and amp adjacent pedals. Those will make more sense as far as the names go as we get into each one of these pedals and I explain what they do and why I put them in those categories. So feel free to jump around in the video, use the chapter markers as you decide what amp-in-a-box pedal is right for you. So first up in the pure pedals category, and actually the only pedal that I put in this category is the Revv G3 Anniversary Edition. This is based off of their purple channel. And the reason why this one is the only pedal in this category, there are other pedals that exist that would function just like this, is that it is able to function just like a normal pedal. At first glance, this looks like a very capable overdrive or distortion pedal with all the different knobs and switches on it. And you can certainly use it just like that if you like the distortion tones, like the kind of new metal thing that this does. It does it really well, and it's also got some versatility to it as well if that's not the only sound you're going for. But it's not just your typical overdrive pedal. What this aims to do is bring the character of this particular Revv amplifier to another amp as I've used it here. Now you can use this with a cab sim or some IRs or however you want to do it. In this case, what I did is I just plugged it right in front of my Fender Deluxe Reverb, which I like that amp a lot. I use it a ton, but it doesn't have a lot of, I don't know, distinct character. I mean, it does, but it's kind of in the category of like maybe just needing something else, in my opinion. It's not a vintage amplifier, but it's good. It gets the job done. But when you throw something like this in front of it, now suddenly your amplifier takes on these new characteristics that this pedal brings to the table, which is super cool. And you're kind of spicing up what could be argued as maybe a boring amplifier in some ways. Another thing to point out is you do have the switch here, which gives you the 3 aggression modes that you so often see on different Revv products, and that's giving you different varying gain structures and gain vibes from not so aggressive to way more aggressive and everything in between. So something like the Revv G3 is a great way to spice up maybe an amplifier that is lacking a little bit of character when you're playing it on its clean tone setting. Bring in the character of your favorite Revv amp just through a pedal. First up in the pedal platform category is the Sunrise Amp Simulator from Mayfly. Now, the next few pedals in this category are going to be literal amp replacements. These are pedals that you can incorporate into your existing pedal board, plug pedals in before them, and then have it basically act as your amplifier. So if you're using it with an existing board, now you've got a board that has a direct solution, which is super important these days. And you can also keep your workflow and performing flow the same with the pedal board that you're used to. So that's the really great thing about these pedals. This particular pedal models a 60s American open back style amplifier, so you can do the math on that one. It does have built-in reverb with a dwell control, 3-band EQ, master and volume control, so you can dial in some dirt. And it has a cab sim and speaker sim built right into it. Default is an open back, but you can open up the back of this and start tweaking it with some internal controls and get a closed back sound as well. The point of this, though, I want to make this clear, is that this is not meant to be used with an existing guitar amplifier. So I would not plug this into a Fender Deluxe Reverb. You're kind of double dipping at that point. What this is intended to do is go direct. It's a direct solution. So direct into your recording interface, direct into a direct box that goes to a front of house PA. That's what this is going to allow you to do, because you have that amp sim and cab sim built right into this very, very simple pedal platform style amp in a box pedal. It's a lot of pedals in one sentence there, but you get the idea. So this is a great solution to turn your existing pedal board into a direct pedal board and get some really cool amp tones out of the Sunrise amp simulator from Mayfly. So next up in the pedal platform category is the NUX Amp Academy. Now this basically is an amp modeler in a pedal. It is, again, a very small, compact size, but this thing really is getting into like modeler world more so than just your typical stomp box with knobs. So the best way that I found to use this is to grab your computer, grab a USB-C cable, and plug it in and download the software so you can actually build scenes and tones on your computer and load them right into this very capable pedal. So let's talk about what the pedal has in it. It does have an effects loop, so you can bring in existing effects if you want to do that. It does have IRs built in, but you can load your own if you want to do that as well. And it does have two outputs, which was the really cool thing I thought about this, is that you actually have an XLR output on the side here, as well as an output here on the back. And you can use those independently of one another. So if you wanted to send the XLR with cab sim and IR to the front of house, you could do that. All the while you have your 1/4 inch out if you wanted to send it to a powered speaker or an amp or something on stage to get some stage volume. Works great. You have routing options with this pedal, which is super cool. When you get in to the software and start to build your tones, not only do you have a variety of amplifiers here, you actually have a variety of effects as well. You've got noise reduction, compression, boost, overdrives, and reverbs, all available in the pedal and all buildable with the software so that you can create scenes for all the tones you can possibly imagine on this thing. Again, this is really, really more so in the amp modeler category. So you do also have a headphone output and an auxiliary in on the side of this pedal with the XLR over here. So the sky's kind of the limit there with how you can use this, whether it's a hotel room kind of practice rig or a travel rig or a backup rig. Lots of ways to utilize the NUX Amp Academy. And if you're kind of shy with software and you're like, well, I don't know if I really want to dig into the computer, you can absolutely just turn this on, plug it in, and go. There's plenty of things loaded right into it and controllable from the front of the pedal without having to touch the software. But the software and dialing in your tones that way is really where this thing excels in such a small package. Next up in the pedal platform category is the Strymon Iridium. Again, this is a pedal that is meant to be put at the end of your existing signal chain, or of course you could use it on its own, but it's going to turn your traditional pedal board or setup into a direct solution very quickly. You don't have to bother with miking cabinets or anything like that anymore. Boom, you've got everything right here that you need in an amp in a box pedal. But on this one, you actually get 3 different amplifiers in one pedal. You've got an American Fendery type amplifier with the round setting. You've got the AC30 type amplifier with the chime. And you've got the Marshall Plexi with the punch. So 3 classic amplifier tones all in one compact pedal. The other cool thing, at the flip of a switch, in each one of those amplifier modes, you get 3 different cab and speaker simulations for a total of 9. It's not the same 3 cabinets for each one of those amps. They've got 3 cab and speaker simulations that are best for each one of those types of amps. So that's really, really cool and adds for a ton of quickly recallable versatility in the Iridium. The other thing that I absolutely love about this pedal is the room reverb knob. Now, this is not going to model reverb that might be, on a Fender style amp with the spring reverb. No, this is going to give you a very, very important type of reverb, which is room sound. And that is what makes an amp sim really, really sing and feel great, particularly with in-ear monitors if you're using it that way. So dial in and dial up that room sound, and it's amazing how realistic that actually is and how much it brings to the sound. Again, typical controls beyond that: 3-band EQ, drive, which is kind of like a gain, and then your overall output level as well to, control what's coming out of the pedal. And then the drive is where you're gonna be able to dial in some of that dirt if you'd like it. This does have MIDI controllability. It's got a USB input output on the back here, so you can use the IRs that come with the pedal, but you can also load your own, which is super cool. And then a stereo input and output on this, so you don't have to go mono if you don't want to, but you certainly can with a switch right here on the back. And you can bypass this if you want to throw it at the end of your board and then play with a real amplifier. Don't have to remove it, just turn it off, play your gig, and then the next time you need a silent direct solution, kick the Iridium on, and you're good to go with 3 classic amp tones. So the third category of amp-in-a-box pedals are what I'm calling amp adjacent, and that's because these start to get into some characteristics and features that actual amplifiers have. In the case of the Friedman IR-D, you actually have 2 12AX7 tubes that are inside of this thing, and it's generally kind of a preamp, really. Think about it as a preamp as well as an amp-in-a-box pedal, but it's got tubes in there, real tubes, which obviously brings some great warmth and dynamic characteristics to your sound. And the cool thing and the best part about this pedal is that you essentially have 2 amplifiers here in one, because this is a dual channel setup. So you can see channel 1, channel 2, you've got the same controls on each one of those channels, but don't think of it as a 2-channel amplifier. Think of it as honestly 2 separate amplifiers in one amp-in-a-box pedal. This is based on the Twin Sister and Dirty Shirley amps from Friedman, and on each channel or each amplifier, you get dedicated EQ, you get a dedicated boost on each one of those, which is foot switch controllable over here. And you also get cab sim, IR, and characteristics that are changeable with these tiny toggle switches here for each one of the amps. So again, you're not just switching from like a clean to a dirty channel on the same amp. You can have 2 straight up completely different amp tones right within this preamp amp-in-a-box pedal, which makes it incredibly versatile when you're using it in a direct solution type environment, which is what this is meant to do. Also, take it into the studio, because again, this is kind of a preamp style pedal. That's the way I would think of it in terms of what its functionality is. This does come with IRs built in, but of course you can load your own if you would like with the easy to use software. USB connection on the back. It's MIDI controllable. You do have a headphone output, so that is great as well. You can use this as a practice rig, a backup rig, a hotel room type rig. And you have an effects loop. So if you have some time-based effects that you'd like to bring into the fray, you can bring them in that way. And again, tubes, real tubes inside of this thing. So last up in the amp adjacent category is the Blackstar Department 10 Amped 2. Now this literally is an amplifier in a box because you have a guitar amp that you can plug into a cabinet built right into this thing. So you've got a 100-watt amplifier. You can dial that down to 20 or 1 watt if you would like, but you can power a real speaker cabinet with this in a slightly larger footprint, but it's still kind of in pedal territory, really, when you look at it. So if you're not interested in powering a speaker cabinet, this does have cab simulation, and you can use it that way. So you have a variety of outputs here on the back. XLR, which is great if you want to just run right into the PA. You've got 1/4 inch out if you want to use it that way. And the other thing is this is actually an audio interface as well. So if you want to use this and incorporate it into your recording setup at home, you can do so with the USB-C output right here and take advantage of all the cab sim and speaker simulation that is built right into this. So on the front here, you do get 3 different amp characters. You've got the USA 60s, UK Class A, and the Blackstar British style tone stack. So you've got 3 very classic kind of amp tones built into this, which covers all your bases really that you need when you're going out and playing a gig. And this is quite literally something you can show up to almost any gig with and have nothing else, because you've got effects built into this as well. You've got drive, modulation, delay, and reverb all built right in here. And they're all set up like your typical stomp boxes. So they're really, really easy to use. Each one of those effects has 3 different kind of modes that you can select through with a toggle switch. If you need even more character that you want to dial in, you can actually even dial through the different types of power amp tubes that it's emulating here with this response switch as well. So it's really like an all-in-one solution, which is great when it comes in a package that's not that big and not heavy at all. It does also have a tuner built in, so you don't need a tuner. And the other thing, which I was actually kind of surprised to see, is that if you notice over here, you've got your typical amp style IEC power cord. So there's an internal power supply. You don't need a wall wart or anything with this. But speaking of wall warts, you do see here, you can actually power other pedals from this thing. So if you have pedals you want to bring into the effects loop, you don't need a separate power supply. You can actually power it right from the Amped 2, which is hugely convenient. So that is basically your all-in-one amp in a box, for real amp in a box solution. So 6 amp in a box options, all very different, all very capable. We've covered them in 3 different categories. Which one is right for you? Which one is right for your particular scenario or scenarios? Because you could probably justify having a couple of these because they do different things, which I hope this video helped you understand and realize. And maybe if you're looking for an amp in a box, now you know which one or what style you'd like to go for and finding that solution for yourself. Once again, this is Tom Butwin here for Premier Guitar, and I will see you in the next video.